President Joe Biden announced on Wednesday that all United States troops will be withdrawn from Afghanistan before September 11, a decision to end the longest war in American history. The United States will begin our final withdrawal, begin it on May 1st of this year. Biden said in his remarks at the White House, US troops as well as forces deployed by our NATO allies and operational partners will be out of Afghanistan before we mark the 20th anniversary of that heinous attack on September 11. Biden delivered the address at the Treaty Room, the same place where then President George W. Bush informed the nation that the US military had begun its strikes against terrorists in Afghanistan nearly 2 decades ago. It is the time to end America's longest war. It is time for American troops to come home, he said, noting that the United States has achieved counterterrorism objectives in this war. In his remarks, Biden made clear that the withdrawal is not subject to any changes of conditions on the ground. We cannot continue the cycle of extending or expanding our military presence in Afghanistan, hoping to create the ideal condition for our withdrawal, expecting a different result, he said. The upcoming September 11th is the 20th anniversary of the terrorist attacks that drew the United States into war in Afghanistan. Biden said that around 2,400 US military personnel were killed and around 20,000 have been wounded in the war. Biden said that around 2,400 US military personnel were killed and around 20,000 have been wounded in the prolonged war. This latest decision extends the deadline negotiated between the previous administration and the Afghan Taliban last year to pull US troops out of the country on May 1st. The US and the Taliban signed an agreement in late February 2020, which called for a full withdrawal of foreign forces from Afghanistan by May 2021 if the Taliban meets the conditions of the deal, including Taliban spokesman Zabihullah Mujahid tweeted earlier Wednesday that if the agreement is breached and foreign forces fail to exit our country on the specified date, problems will certainly be compounded and those who fail to comply with the agreement will be held liable. The Taliban should know that if they attack us as we draw down, we will defend ourselves and our partners with all the tools at our disposal, Biden warned. Since February last year, the Taliban had held off on attacking US troops in Afghanistan by increasing attacks against Afghan forces. The Biden administration concluded that the Taliban had not met its commitment under the US-Taliban deal for keeping up ties with Al-Qaeda. The Biden administration previously suggested that it would be tough to pull a large number of troops and equipment in weeks' time due to logistic reasons. The Pentagon said there are roughly 2,500 US troops in Afghanistan, but US media recently said the number did not include 1,000 more US special forces in the country. Besides, about 7,000 NATO troops in Afghanistan rely on US logistic and security support. In the meantime, Biden highlighted that the US would continue to support the Afghan government and provide assistance to the Afghan military after the withdrawal. In the meantime, Biden highlighted that the US would continue to support the Afghan government and provide assistance to the Afghan military after the withdrawal. While we will not stay involved in Afghanistan militarily, our diplomatic and humanitarian work will continue, he said. He also voiced US support for the peace talks between the Afghan government and the Taliban facilitated by the United Nations. Biden spoke with Afghan President Mohammad Ashraf Ghani earlier in the day. They discussed continued commitment to a strong bilateral partnership following the departure of US troops from Afghanistan, according to a readout issued by the White House. The latest decision has drawn criticism from analysts and lawmakers. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell on Tuesday said in a statement that precipitously withdrawing US forces from Afghanistan is a grave mistake. It is retreat in the face of an enemy that has not been vanquished and abdication of American leadership. Disappointing that Biden opted for calendar rather than conditions-based withdrawal from Afghanistan, Richard Haas, president of the Council on Foreign Relations, tweeted Tuesday. The expert noted that the withdrawal would come with high costs, including possible terrorism, revival, or spike in recession by the Taliban, and damage to US reputation. I think that the critics make some valid points, David Gordon, a senior advisor at International Institute for Strategic Studies, told Xinhua. But the fact of the matter is that the US has been in Afghanistan for 20 years. The Ghani government has basically refused to compromise with the Taliban. Public support for the war in the US was lost quite a while ago. I see the president's move as the last bad option, he said. A recent threat assessment report released by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence offered some grim predictions.
The Taliban is likely to make gains on the battlefield, and the Afghan government will struggle to hold the Taliban at bay if the coalition withdraws support. Gordon, who served as vice chair of the US National Intelligence Council under the George W. Bush administration, agreed that the balance of forces in a continuing conflict will shift to favor the Taliban due to the US withdrawal. But we will also see Russia, Iran, India and Pakistan as neighboring states, each become more effectively engaged. While they have different interests, none will favor a rapid Taliban victory, he said. Sinwar.